Let's not lose our heads, though.
Lose our heads?
Are you ready?
Let's go!
Dear Xenoblade, I hope this video finds you well. I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you as a series, and what I love about your games. From a young age, I enjoyed running around the worlds of Mario 64 and Battle for Bikini Bottom. Discovering their secrets and helping out the inhabitants always brought a smile to my face. And as I got older, I started to enjoy games that had a greater narrative, such as Zelda or Ratchet & Clank. While I can always enjoy a simple story like Good vs. Evil, I liked how these games tried to add more to their stories with lore and character development. So I was happy to learn that your games deliver on both of these fronts, and more. Each of your games has a story that starts with a simple objective that gradually gets bigger as the game progresses. In the first game, we follow Shulk as he goes on a quest for revenge against the Mechon, an army of sadistic machines who eat people. Along the way, Shulk must learn to use the power of a mysterious sword known as the Monado, which can allow him to see visions of the future. Xenoblade 2's story follows a boy named Rex who, after getting killed by a group of terrorists, comes into contact with a blade named Pyra. After she resurrects him, the two set off to find the fabled land of Elysium to save their dying world. Lastly, we have Xenoblade 3, where the countries of Keves and Agnes are at constant war with each other. We follow the story of Noah and Mio, officers from both nations who set aside their differences to stop the war and save their friends. All three of these stories are great on their own, but they're also part of a greater story arc that culminates in Xenoblade 3 and its expansion, Future Redeemed. I enjoyed watching these stories play out individually, and seeing how they all tie into each other at the end. And while some aspects may be different between the plots of the games, one thing that each story has in common is its themes, such as escaping and rewriting fate, the meaning and cycle of life, and our place in the universe. These are shared amongst each game, but there's also an overarching theme exclusive to each entry, with them respectively focusing on
the past, the present, and the future as well.
Xenoblade 1 is about our fear of the future and our desire to control it. Xenoblade 2 is about how the pain of the past can affect us, and why we should let go of it. And Xenoblade 3 is about our desire to stay in the present, and how we wish to spend our time in life. These themes become more prevalent as the stories continue, and I found it very interesting to see how these relate to the characters and their internal struggles. Adding on to that, each game follows a likable cast of characters who have their own stories and personal dilemmas. Some of my favorite characters included Shulk, who reminds me of myself today, Rex, who reminds me of myself as a kid, and he becomes a Giga Dad later,
I'll show him a thing or three.
Noah, who shares his name with my cousin and the figure from the Bible, Hiropon Riki and his kids Kino and Nene, the wise Dunban, Princess Melia Antiqua, who's a fan of Kelly Clarkson,
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, apparently.
the lovable Pyra and her headstrong counterpart Mithra, the cynical but well-meaning Nia, the adorable Poppy, Zeke, or as he's more commonly known, the Zekinator, the mercenary with a heart of gold Van Damme, legendary Prince Adam, Uni, who's the best character in 3,
Right, I'm punching him. Noah, permission to punch.
Tyon, who's the second best character in 3, Lance, who does an excellent impression of my dad,
And I was the MVP. You were all thinking it.
Senna, who must be protected at all costs, Nicole, who also reminds me of myself today, and A, who's awesome and non-binary. I enjoyed learning about them throughout the games, seeing their highs and lows, and watching them overcome their struggles and grow from their experiences. By the end of each game, I felt like I got to know the cast, and I was sad to say goodbye to them as the credits rolled. And seeing everything end with Future Redeemed was amazing, giving the trilogy a satisfying conclusion while leaving the door open for more adventures. That's one of the major things I love about your game, Xenoblade. You present stories and characters that I relate to and care about, and I got emotionally invested in seeing their tales through to the end each time. Honestly, With how grand and well written the stories of these games are, I almost feel like I'm playing a video game version of Lord of the Rings or Avatar: The Last Airbender when I turn them on. Going on a long journey, encountering different inhabitants, learning about their struggles, and working together to save the world is always a premise I can get behind. And the addition of thought-provoking themes, as well as a few biblical references and parallels, makes the Xenoblade series one of the most memorable gaming experiences I've ever had. And that's not even taking the gameplay itself into account. Across the settings of the 3 games, there are so many places to explore and meet new faces. From the body of the nature titan the Bionis, to the cloud sea of Allrest, and the war-torn Ionios. The areas you go to in these lands are so big and are perfect for exploring, battling enemies, uncovering treasure, and completing tasks. It also helps that the first 2 games occur on the bodies of titans, which is pretty unique. The Bionis in the first game is so big, and it's amazing how every location is a different part of its body. It gives the first game a grand sense of scale when you look up at the sky and see the Bionis' head, reminding you that you're on the body of a long-deceased creature. In comparison, the second game is set on the backs of multiple smaller titans, but there's still a sense of scale with how big they are. And it's cool in places like Gormott where you can see the titan moving through the cloud sea, adding some more life to the world. While the third game doesn't take place on a living creature, it still retains the sense of scale with how big the world of Ionios is. And because it's a combination of areas from the previous 2 games, you occasionally see parts of them every once in a while during exploration, such as the fallen hand of Mechonis or the inside of Uriah. I have so many memories of getting lost in your worlds and completing side quests, which would reward me with greater affinity with the world's inhabitants. The affinity and community charts add so much more life to these worlds, because rather than having every town or colony contain only shops, there are multiple NPCs with unique names and personalities, and I enjoyed helping them out in between story segments. Helping them out is not only rewarding because of the experience, but also to strengthen the bonds between the party and the people they help. And not all of the side quests are simply get me this or beat the monster either. Some of them are more personal stories, or they flesh out the world further. Each town or colony may even contain its own side stories, such as the restoration of Colony 6 in the first game, or the hero quests in the third game, which not only makes the towns more memorable, but it also gives me more of a reason to go back to them. The more I can do for these people, the more they can survive in these harsh worlds, so it genuinely feels like I'm making an impact on these people in more ways than simply running errands or progressing the main plot. There are plenty of memorable quests in the worlds of Xenoblade Chronicles, and I loved helping these communities grow and become stronger. Besides running around the world, the combat, while complicated, is really fun when you get the hang of it. While I may not be the best user of your combat Xenoblade, I enjoyed the layers of strategy and thought that go into each battle. In each game, you attack automatically while your arts fill up. These arts can provide stronger attacks and healing abilities, or cause status effects on enemies like break or bleed. I would do my best to use the break combos to get the upper hand, while making sure that I had what I needed to heal or revive my allies. I would also try to make sure I was in the right position to use certain attacks, as some arts are more effective depending on where you attack the enemy. Combat's different from most other games I've played, but I still found it to be fun, even with some of the slower moments, such as how long it may take for the arts to charge up. And even with the differences in combat systems between each game, I still found each system fun for one reason or another. The different mechanics and gimmicks in each entry add plenty of variety to them, and I enjoyed getting to know how each system worked. Also, I like that leveling up is easy, as you gain experience by completing quests, finding new areas, or viewing special conversations. Side quests in 2 and 3 will reward you with bonus EXP that can be used at rest spots to level up your characters, or even lower their level in New Game Plus. I already had the motivation to explore the world, but because I could get rewarded with experience from side quests, that gave me even more of a desire to go off the beaten path and see what else the world had to offer. All in all, I found your gameplay to be unique and enjoyable. And regardless of how long I sat down to play one of your games, from 2-hour or 8-hour sessions, I always felt like I was accomplishing something and getting stronger. The music for each of your games is phenomenal as well, Xenoblade, and each song makes an environment, scene, or battle much more impactful. The music pieces for the open world created such an adventurous and exciting vibe for each location, and made every area stand out. I find myself humming Gower Plains and War Ardain every once in a while, especially when I'm out on a walk, almost as if I'm going on an adventure myself. The themes of the towns and their nighttime variants are a bit more peaceful than the main field areas, but they're still a pleasure to listen to. In fact, I found the nighttime tracks to be perfect for studying and writing papers because of how soothing they are. And the battle themes are perfect for getting me in the mood for fighting. I especially love the use of rock instruments for battle music, as it adds a lot of energy to the fights. And of course, how could I mention the battle music and not address one of the series' best tracks, You Will Know Our Names, an epic rock song that plays during unique battles and that has a different variation in each installment. It's become one of the most iconic parts of the series, especially with the awesome guitar solo that happens in the middle. And the cutscene music helped set the tone for each scene, regardless if it was comedic like Riki's introduction,
Help me. To you.
Right in the... Take this, bubble!
or dramatic like the showdown with Console K.
Impossible! The flame pot cannot be broken! What is this? Who are these people?
Speaking of cutscene music, I love each of the game's vocal themes, which contribute to each entry's overall tone and story. The scene where A Step Away plays in Xenoblade 3 is one of the best scenes I've seen in a game, and the vocal track perfectly captured the feeling of the scene. And Future Awaits is a perfect ending theme to not just Future Redeemed, but the entire Xenoblade saga up until this point. Also, because I heard the song during my last week of college, and with how the song deals with moving to the future, I choose to associate that song with me entering the next phase of my life. But my personal favorite of your vocal tracks would have to be Xenoblade 2's ending theme, One Last You. When I reached the end of the game and heard this song, I felt so many emotions, and it cemented 2 as one of my favorite games ever. Xenoblade, your music is wonderful, and is one of the greatest soundtracks to any video game series I've played. Your trilogy has amazing and thought-provoking stories, a lovable cast of characters, fun and rewarding gameplay, and a fantastic soundtrack. There's so much I love about your games, and honestly, I could keep going about everything I love about them, but I'll only mention one more thing. Despite how others may feel, I love that your franchise is part of the Nintendo family. I've always enjoyed Nintendo's large cast of characters and game worlds, and while you may be more mature in comparison, I appreciate that. You add more variety to Nintendo's already massive lineup of franchises with your deeper storytelling and unique locations. And the studio behind your games, Monolith Soft, has been a big help to Nintendo with their games as well, such as Breath of the Wild and the Splatoon series. Monolith is an ambitious game studio, who are not only great at developing giant projects, but they've wanted to tell a massive story like Xenoblade for so long. And with Future Redeemed ending the current saga, it's great to see Monolith finally succeed in telling the story that they want. This is why I'm grateful for their relationship with Nintendo, who have largely supported and funded your series over the years. In fact, the late Satoru Iwata himself was the one who suggested your name be changed from Minato to Xenoblade. I'm glad that you and Monolith are part of the Nintendo family, and I can't wait to see what you guys make next. To wrap up, thank you, Xenoblade. I love your games and the experiences that they've given me, and I wish you luck with whatever you do next. Your future awaits, and it's looking bright. Love, Super AntOreo. P.S. When is X coming to Switch?